In 1752, someone by the name of Dr. Charles Hamilton is arrested in Chester, Pennsylvania, and revealed to be Charlotte Hamilton, who confessed to having lived in disguise as a man for several years. Nearly 25 years later, in 1777, Thomas Jefferson revises Virginia's law to make sodomy committed by both men and women punishable by mutilation, rather than death. Wait, Jefferson? Really?
Fast-forwarding less than a decade later, in 1861, Franklin Thompson, born Sarah Emma Edmonds, fights for the Union Army in the Civil War. During the war, Franklin serves as a spy, nurse, dispatch carrier, and is later the only woman mustered in the Grand Army of the Republic. Hold on. If Franklin was a man, supposedly transgender, why are they calling him a woman?
Elliot, people sometimes don't write history that way.
Oh.
Elliot! In the year of 1895, Angelina Weill-Greick, a young woman who would become a celebrated poet of the Harlem Renaissance, writes to Marion Brill, "If you only knew how my heart beats when I think of you, your passionate lover, Angelina." Closer to our time in 1915, on a speaking tour crossing the country, Emma Goldman defends lesbianism and homosexuality. Goldman's appearance prompted many women, unhappy with having to hide their lesbianism, to share their stories with her.
In the year 1924, a man of the name Henry Gerber and 6 other men in Chicago founded the Society for Human Rights. This is the United States' first known gay rights organization. But a year later, in 1925, blueswoman Ma Rainey was arrested in her house in Harlem for having a lesbian party. Her protege, or apprentice, Bessie Smith, bails her out of jail the following morning. Rainey and Smith were both part of an executive circle of lesbian and bisexual African-American women's group in Harlem. Holy smokes, why can't people just let the queers party?
In the year 1942, working with psychiatrists, the military develops guidelines for recruiters in order to identify and exclude gay men from the service.
In the decade 1950, the Mattachine Society is formed by the activist Harry Hay and is one of the first sustained gay rights groups in the United States. This society focused on social acceptance and other support for homosexuals. April of 1952, the American Psychiatric Association Diagnostic Manual lists homosexuality as a sociopathic personality disturbance. It is possible to formulate a descriptive typology of etiological theories of homosexuality throughout modern history, in which they generally fall into 3 broad categories: pathology, immaturity, and normal variation. In June of 1952, Christine Jorgensen became the first American whose sex reassignment surgery became public. Her surgery causes an international sensation, and for many, she is the first visible transsexual in the media.
On April 21, 1966, the New York City chapter of Mattachine Society, a gay rights organization, decided to challenge the New York Liquor Authority regulations against serving alcohol to gay people. Police often used this as a pretext to raid LGBTQ bars. The regulations believed that alcohol causes disorderly conduct in gay men, but this was more discrimination-based than actual truth. Borrowing a tactic from the civil rights movement, the chapter staged a sip-in at Julius, a Greenwich bar. When a group of 3 men sat down at the counter, the bartender placed cups down in front of them, like how the bar would with any other customer. A man from the trio stated that they were gay, and the bartender responded by putting his hands on the drink. This event was possibly the first act of civil disobedience on behalf of the LGBTQ community.
One of the earliest acts of resistance by queer people against police abuse and harassment. In his landmark book, City of the Night, novelist John Ritchie describes Cooper's Donuts as a 24-hour coffee and donut place on Main Street that was popular with transgender women, gay men, and lesbians, who were routinely targeted and arrested by the Los Angeles Police Department. The police went into the shop one night and checked all the customers' IDs to make sure that their sex matched with their gender expression. This leads to some protests after the event due to mass amounts of frustration. Less than a year later, on New Year's Day in 1967, undercover officers arrested 14 patrons of the Black Cat Cavern, one of the many gay bars that lined Sunset Boulevard at the time. The bar attracted a largely working-class clientele and was nested among the number of businesses friendly to gay men and lesbians. A protest took place outside the door of the tavern on February 17th of that same year.
On June 28, 1969, one of the most famous riots took place in New York. Local police raided the Stonewall Inn. That was a popular gay bar. Stonewall was a safe haven for people of the LGBTQ+ community. When police raided the bar again, and the customers were fed up this time. When the police tried to take the bar customers, they responded by locking them in the bar and setting it on fire. The riots led to the creation of the Gay Liberation Front, and the year after the riots announced that they would no longer be excluding homosexuals from the governmental employment. Elaine Noble later became the first openly lesbian or gay legislator as she takes her seat in the Massachusetts House of Representatives. Close to Minnesota becomes the first U.S. state to protect transgender people by amending its local non-discrimination law to include the phrase, having or protecting a self-image not asserted with one's biological maleness or one's biological femaleness. In February 1982, Wisconsin passes the first lesbian and gay civil rights bill in the United States. The law prohibits bias in housing, employment, and public accommodations.
In 1990, the Gay, Straight, Lesbian Independent School Teachers Network, also known as GLSTN, is founded. Only two known high school student clubs known as Gay Straight Alliances, GSAs, exist in the U.S. at the time. But later in 1997, GLSTN changed its name to GLSEN, the Gay, Lesbian, and Straight Education Network, in order to more reflect the importance of straight educators in shaping safe schools. Now GLSEN is also known for their national support in the LGBTQ community in schools, with their annual National Day of Silence. The National Day of Silence, also known as DOS, is a student-led day of action on which those who support making anti-LGBTQ bullying and harassment unacceptable in schools participate in events to recognize, protest the discrimination and harassment, and deflect the silencing experienced by lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender LGBTQ students and their allies.
On July 19, 1993, Clinton announced the Don't Ask, Don't Tell DADT policy, which permitted gay Americans to serve in the military as long as they remained closeted. The policy enshrined a federal status passed by Congress the same year, went into effect in February of 1994. Under DADT, military personnel was not allowed to discriminate against or harass closeted service members they believed to be gay. On the other hand, homosexuals, bisexual service members could not disclose a sexual orientation or refer to any same-sex relationship. If they violated this policy or otherwise were found to have engaged in homosexual conduct, they would be subject to discharge. Barack Obama campaigned for president in 2008 with a promise to immediately overturn DADT, but the discharges continued during his first year in the White House. By 2010, several U.S. states, including Massachusetts, Connecticut, Vermont, and New Hampshire, had legalized same-sex marriage. Later that year, the Pentagon announced the results of the report aimed to